Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. Looking forward to a very meaningful week of preparation to Rosh Hashanah, which I'll be talking a lot more about tomorrow. In the meantime, today we're going to complete the 13th of the 13 principles of faith by Maimonides. And last time we spoke about the 12th, which is the belief in the coming of Mashiach. The 13th principle of faith, which is really probably the most difficult to understand and for our very limited minds to wrap our head around, is the belief in the resurrection of the dead. Now, number one, just that belief itself is very hard for many people to comprehend. It's hard for all of us to comprehend. Excuse me. How the dead could be and will be resurrected. Obviously, that is a miraculous act that only God can perform, to take from whatever leftover genes or particles there are left of all the dead people from years and years ago and be able to recreate a body from them. Miraculous, no question about it. So that's the only one really of those 13 principles of faith, which really is a leap of faith as far as belief. And I'm going to try to explain a little bit about what it is and why it's important as a belief, and why in particular Maimonides includes it as one of the 13 major principles of our faith as Jewish people. So first of all, I want to take a look at the second blessing of the 18, really 19 blessings that are in the Shemona Esrei, in the Amidah, which we say 3 times a day. And if you look at that blessing, I'm going to read it in English. He sustains the living with love and kindness, resurrects the dead with great mercy, supports the fallen, heals the sick, releases the bound, and fulfills his trust to those who sleep in the dust. That's the second, because that's his promise to those who sleep in the dust, is to resurrect them. Who is like you, mighty one, and who can be compared to you, king, who brings death and restores life? That's the third, and causes deliverance to spring forth. You are trustworthy to revive the dead. Number 4, blessed are you who revives the dead. Number 5. So we see here how 5 times in the second blessing of the Shemona Esrei is this belief in the resurrection of the dead included and mentioned and part of our daily prayers. So what is resurrection of the dead? Why do we believe in it? And we have it clearly from prophecies. If you look through the prophets, it's definitely there. The idea is this. The body fulfills many mitzvahs during the course of our life. Whether we're observant or not observant, it's the body that does the good deeds, that gives the charity, that helps the person, that puts on the tefillin, that lights the candles, and so forth and so on. It's the physical body which is doing it. Now, the soul is considered to be the driving force behind the body. And the soul, in fact, after 120 years, goes up to the Garden of Eden and gets its reward and has all types of wonderful things happening to it. And what do we do to the body? We stick it 6 feet under. Is that fair? I mean, the body was the one that was really doing the mitzvahs. The body was the one that was actively participating, that sometimes had to really force itself, if it didn't want to do the mitzvah, that actually does the mitzvah. True, the soul was giving the power for it and the direction, the guidance, and the conscience behind it. But it's the body that actually did the physical act itself. So God, we say, never holds back the reward of any type, any form. There's one problem, though. If God would give reward to the body during our life, there would be no free choice. Because every time we did a mitzvah, we'd have $5 falling down into our pocket. We get a tingle in our back. We would feel this great sense of connectivity to the essence of God. We would, it would be a completely different type of creation than what God created and the purpose for which God created it. So God held back any type of reward from the body, at least that we can perceive in any direct connection between what we do and what physically we experience. We talked last week, a couple of lessons ago, about reward and punishment, and we really can't figure out fully what reward and punishment is in this life. We understand and we believe that it exists. We believe that God does give us reward and that we're accountable for our misdeeds as well. But there's so many factors that God takes into account in terms of how he dishes out reward and punishment. But for sure, the body is for sure not getting anywhere near the amount of reward that it should be getting according to what it does during the course of its time in this lifetime, its time in this world. So as a result, God says this. God says, you know what? The body and the soul are like, let's say, I'll tell you a story. There's a man and two men who are on the sidelines during Simchas Torah, during the time which is coming up soon, where we dance with the Torah. And they're there observing, listening, and not able to participate. Why? Because one of them is blind and one of them is lame. He cannot walk. And they're sitting there next to each other. All of a sudden, one of them comes up with the idea and says, you know what? I have feet and you have eyes. How about if I put you on my shoulders and then we can dance together in order to be able to participate in Simchas Torah? It's a great idea, and they go for it, and they have a great time. So in a certain degree, the body and the soul are compared that way as well. The body has no eyes. It doesn't see godliness. It doesn't have the ability to really see truth, to know what's going on behind the scenes. And similarly, the soul has no feet. It has no connection to physicality. So the connection of the body and the soul is what really gives us the ability to, number one, be functioning human beings, but number two, for sure, to do all the mitzvahs and all the good deeds that we do. It's only because of that shutuf, that partnership that the two of them have, that we're able to function the way we do. So there has to come a time when what's coming to the body is coming. In other words, the reward that the body deserves will be able to be given out. And that's why God says, listen, I'm going to give you the bodily reward that you require, that you deserve. It has to wait, though. It's got to be held in a bank, and it's going to be delayed until after Mashiach comes. And then I will bring you all back to life, which for God, really, practically speaking, is a cinch. It's not really difficult at all, because God is infinite. God can do whatever he wants. So, for us, it seems like this incredible miracle. For God, it's a cinch. And I'm going to bring you back to life. And then once I'm able to reveal myself and I'm able to be open with you, and we have that reestablishment of total communication like we had in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve were there, then I can show you what your true reward is, because then you're not going to have free choice anyway. And as a result, I'm not worried about taking away from your free choice by revealing myself to you. And as we mentioned before we even started this course on the 13 Principles of Faith, that really is the ultimate goal, to reestablish that connection between us as human beings and our Creator in an open, free, moving communication, in a way that the essence of God can be found here in this physical world. It is here now, but it's hidden from us. And that's something that determines and drives much of our life, being that we have to believe in things as opposed to being able to see things, see God. So this is the idea of resurrection of the dead. And God will bring us all back. And, it used to be a belief that was really based on a tremendous leap of faith. And then, thank God, we had Jurassic Park, and we show how what you can take from even a tiny little bit of DNA, and you can reconstruct a whole body, in that case it was a dinosaur, so to say, but of course, according to our belief, it would be an actual human being. In fact, our sages teach that there's a small part of the back of the nape of the neck. It's called in Hebrew the luz bone, which never really decays and doesn't rot, and it will always be intact in a grave. And from that DNA that's in there, that's what we say, God will rebuild each and every single body from that point on. It says that all Jews will be resurrected, and all righteous non-Jews will be resurrected as well. And at that time, God will be totally revealed, and the essence of God will live comfortably in this dir b'tachtonim, as it is called by the Midrash, a dwelling place in this lowest of worlds, where God can feel comfortable in this world, together with his creations. And that's why we work to do what we do. That's why Chabad has it all over the world, and Jews all over the world, and non-Jews as well, doing mitzvahs, in order to transform this world into a dwelling place for God, that eventually the time will come when not only Mashiach will come, but we'll have the resurrection of the dead, We'll be reunited with all of our loved ones. We'll be able to see God himself. We'll be reunited with Abraham and Sarah and all of our matriarchs and patriarchs and all of the great sages and people from the past. And then we'll have a true messianic era. God willing, it should happen quickly in our days. So in the meantime, that's the conclusion of the 13 principles of faith. Again, those principles don't deal with specific mitzvahs, so to say, but kind of the undercurrent or the foundation of what our Jewish belief is and why these 13 principles are so important. I welcome your questions if you want to send them to me in order to be able to clarify any of them. And we're going to continue now, starting tomorrow, with specific things about the high holidays, which we're going to be experiencing over the next 2 and 3 weeks. And then sometime after Sukkot, we're going to go into the 10 Commandments. Because again, this is part of our B2B course, back to basics, to really be able to understand what are the basics of Judaism, what is our basic belief system, so we'll know that we're standing on a solid foundation. Take care. Have a great day.